All right, so we are Team AMC. This is our design concept for our chatbot, which we want to be a hub for movies designed to minimize the time and effort it takes to find and purchase our AMC movie tickets. I'm Thomas. I'm also joined with Cam, Daniel, and Jake. So some of our design goals and usability is we want it to be effective. So it should be easy and quick to perform any ticketing using a text-based format. We kind of chose the text-based format just to kind of make it quick and easy. You can also add buttons to speed up the process and minimize error. We also want this to be flexible. So we want to be able to do a couple different things with it. So, it could be any sort of genre, horror films or action films, or, it could recommend you films, or you can specifically choose a film. We also want it to be customizable. So if it recognizes that you have already seen a movie, then it shouldn't be recommending you that movie. Also, if you kind of tend to like specific genres of movies, then in that case, it'll sort of trying to push you in that direction of those kinds of movies and recommend, things like that. So our first persona is Jim. So he's kind of like our older kind of user. So he's not really technologically advanced. He gets frustrated very easily with it. So the key here is we've got to be very efficient with our use of the chatbot. And it's going to be very easy to understand. So this is kind of how this conversation would flow with Jim. This is where we're kind of getting some conceptual ideas of, what the chatbot would be saying and doing. And this is kind of how we think it might look in context.
Okay, and for our second persona, we have Pam, and unlike Jim, she's a good deal younger, so she's a lot more tech savvy. But the key with her is most of her time is spent either occupied with her job or her two young kids. So we need the app to be very time efficient, so it doesn't take up too much of our users' time. So this user journey is kind of a visualization of how we think that conversation would go between the app and her, the various steps that it would use. And then the storyboard is our visualization of how we think that conversation would look like. So, and our third and final persona is Ryan. Unlike the previous two, he's by far the youngest, so he's very, very tech savvy, but he has issues with time management between his classes and getting together with all of his friends. So again, the key here is for it to be simple and not take a whole lot of time. So third user journey is again a visualization of how we think this conversation would go and the steps that Ryan would take to get to his movie. And again, the storyboard is how we believe the app would look and how it would handle his situation.
So for the next 7 to 8 slides, we have a bit of an annotated prototype. This is basically kind of how a user would go through our first initial prototype and how they would follow along with the responses. So in this first slide, the user is greeted by the chatbot and asked if they would like to see a specific movie. And then they have the option of yes or no. Following that, based on their response, which in this case, they didn't want to see anything specific, the chatbot allows them to see a listing of specific movies based on the genre. So here they have the option to pick a genre that they would like. Now, based on their response again, they chose action in this case, and they're presented with a list of movies based on their response. And here they have the option to pick 1 through 3. Let's see here. Based on the response here, they chose 1. So if they're going to see Spider-Man, now they're asked how many tickets he or she will need. So the user entered that they needed 1 ticket. So the chatbot automatically finds a seat in the specific theater, and they asked if they would like to make a purchase. And so obviously they're going to want to make the purchase. We're going to set up, or we're going to do our best to set up our chatbot to be able to accept Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. This makes it easier so that payment information isn't really transferred between the chatbot or the user. So in this case, they have the option to pick between the two, Apple Pay or Samsung Pay. And finally, they determine that they want to do Apple Pay. And like I said before, there's no payment information exchange here since Apple Pay is already set up in the user's device. And then they just click to purchase a ticket. Then the payments received, the user is prompted with a QR code that they can show and scan at their theater to get their tickets, and they can enjoy the movie. And if they'd like to, they can return to the main screen, purchase more tickets if they'd like to.
All right, so for our signifiers and affordances, an affordance is something that your app can do, and a signifier is just some sort of indicator. And our prototype of the AMC chatbot, we figured that our affordances, they're going to be just the buttons that we have our users press when they're prompted to answer a question, like what genre they want to use or what movie they want to watch. And the signifiers are going to be the questions themselves that our chatbot will ask, and also the text prompt of select an option, which then lets the user know what selection has to be made. And yeah, that's about it.